Kia ora everyone, welcome to another week of Lunch Money brought to you by Sharesies. At Sharesies, our purpose is to create the most financially empowered generation.
So for those of you who are new to Lunch Money, we do these every Thursday at lunchtime, which is typically around 12:15. This is a place where you as investors can hear from people leading some of the companies available on the Sharesies platform, as well as some other investing experts. We try to get some super special guests on the show. And this time we're doing a bit of a special edition, or a bit different. We've got the three EOs of Sharesies here, and it's been a while since we've done it just like us, so it's quite cool to get back together.
Yeah, it is, and as we're in lockdown, we thought it's a great chance to catch up and have a chat about what's happening at Sharesies. We're going to talk about some general investing strategies, and of course, we're going to take some of your questions, and thanks so much to everyone who's already sent some through.
Yeah, great. So first, we'll just introduce ourselves. So I'm Sonya. I'm one of the co-founders and co-CEOs at Sharesies. Yeah, and kia ora. You're going to feel like you're going to hear repeats here, but I'm Brooke, also one of the co-founders and co-CEOs here at Sharesies.
And I'm Leighton, and I have the same job title as Sonya or Brooke.
Sharesies, yeah. So before we get into today's discussion and get into the thick of it, just a small disclaimer to start us off. Investing does involve risks. You aren't guaranteed to make money, and you might lose the money you started with. Any information we provide is general only and current at the time. If you're looking for your help with your investment choices, nothing we talk about here today will be personal to you, so please do seek some help if you need that. Yeah, definitely nothing personalized. How many times can I say personalized?
You got it out a few good times. That's great. I'll just chuck in another quick reminder. So if you have any questions for us, you can submit them through the Ask a Question bit, which is down the bottom. Don't leave the questions in the discussion bit, as we're likely to miss those.
And we've had heaps of questions come in via social, via our Instagram channel, so which is great. So we've tried to interweave them into what we're going to talk about, and then at the end we'll jump into the 40 or so questions we've already got lined up here in the chat. Yeah, cool. And so as usual, please be kind and respectful to each other, and there is a lot of us here today, which is pretty exciting. Otherwise, if you're not, we'll have to remove you from the webinar, which we don't want to do. So yeah, just be a good sport, and we'll have a great time. Yeah,
great. So firstly, let's kick off with the obvious, because I think the numbers are probably slightly correlated to this as well. For people listening in today live, we're in level 4 lockdown again, and we actually started this Lunch Money in level 4 lockdown just over a year ago. So it's sort of going back in time. Feels like I've completely forgotten the term when you're reliving the past. Someone help me with that.
Deja vu.
Oh, deja vu, yeah. Yeah, that one.
Wrong.
Deja vu. Feels like a bit of deja vu going on. But how are you finding it this time around, Sonya? Anything different for you?
Yeah, I guess, like muscle memory kind of popped into my mind, where it feels like, because being here before, now it feels like definitely a bit more prepared than last time. I think it also happened quickly though, so it was about responding to that and making sure we've got everything we need. But I think other people are really prepared to make it a really good time too. So I've been doing some online dance classes. There's a place called Shut Up and Dance that does an online choreographed dance, and I just love that. And there's also an online game called Scribblio, which is like Pictionary but online, and love doing that as well. So finding a few things to kind of keep me occupied and give me some good lols. How about you?
Yeah, well, we've got the lockdown kids experience, which I'm sure a few people have got. So for those who don't know, Brooke and I are married, hence the same surname, not brother and sister, which or anything like that. But so yeah, we've got a 3-year-old Al who's currently looking after her 1-year-old brother Louis. So that's what we're doing. No, we time nap times perfectly. So if either of us has to run off urgently, it's because some loud noise in the background. But yeah, we're just we're taking the time. It's actually quite special in a way to spend a bit more time with them. Hard, that's for sure. We haven't really talked about it too much. It just feels like we're on the go the whole time, but I'm not sure how you're thinking about it, Brooke.
Yeah, I think they're definitely becoming constants in our online meetings. The kids kind of there on the hip or hanging out or wanting food or whatever, which, it's actually quite nice seeing people's families and seeing, like how their life's going too. But I've also found during this lockdown, like and last one too, I've got really good friends and I'm terrible on the phone. Like I'd rather just see somebody in person and have really quick phone calls. But I feel like, you've got a bit more space to really connect with friends that you don't get to catch up with often. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to do that and try and make that more of a habit, actually, because it's really nice.
Nice. Sonia's got Rue as well, a new puppy, and I've seen Rue appearing in a few meetings as well. But the other day doing something dodgy to Ben's leg, I will say that in the background. But is Rue enjoying having you around? I'm sure, Sonya. Although he spends a bit of time in the office, doesn't he?
Yeah, it is cool having a little puppy this time around. And I think he'll get used to this amount of attention. So I'm kind of worried about what happens.
I'm sure there's dogs around the country like that.
Yeah, he does.
Well, should we crack into some of these questions? Because we've got a lot to get through, eh? And I could definitely, would love to, we need to get Rue pics, I reckon, or try and get Rue in here, because I know people want to see your cute little puppy. But yeah, let's get to these questions. The first couple were particularly around our backgrounds and how we got into investing. So maybe, one of you could start talking about your particular background. The specific questions were, did you have university qualifications before this job? When did you first start investing? What ages and what you invested in? And did you have any jobs you wanted to do growing up? So, Sonya, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, cool. So university, yes, I did. I studied accounting and marketing at Victoria University in Wellington. I went later, I was called a mature student when I went, which was a bit of a young, because I think I was still like 20 or something, 21. But
I'd struggle with mature student for you now, wouldn't they?
It's very funny. So when did I start investing? I think it depends how you define that. I define it pretty broad. I definitely saw investing in myself and my education as a big part of investing. And that was something I have done a lot in my life, read a lot of books, always super interested in learning and being curious to learn stuff. But my first investment, I guess financial investment outside of that would have been a home, and as well, it was maybe actually earning shares in a company. I used to work at Xero, and my first kind of shares were earned. So it's not like a transaction that I did. I guess it was a transaction, but that was quite a cool introduction, actually, owning a bit of the company that you work for. And I love that businesses do that. Did I have any jobs I wanted to do when I was growing up? What pops up there? What did I want to be? I wanted to direct music videos. I was pretty obsessed with music videos as a teenager, and I thought that would be a pretty awesome job. Cool. How about you, Leighton?
Yeah, so university qualifications, I have also a business degree, so finance and management. Funny story there, though. I finished it but didn't graduate, and that caused a few problems. I'm sure, it's a really good thing. Many of you will know Sharesies is heavily licensed and regulated business, and we have to prove things like what our qualifications are at different points. And there was a time where the fact that I hadn't actually ticked the box somewhere to finish the graduation became a little bit of a problem for us. So that's all done now. I've officially got a certificate and stuff. And that's sort of what prompted that. But yeah, went to university. I was actually a trumpet player in the New Zealand Army Band for 6 years. So I was actually also a mature student at university, started when I was about 21 or 22, and probably even more questionable on the mature stage than my joke towards you before, Sonya. On the investing side, I did make some good life decisions, I think. I'm pretty proud of myself. When I was about 17, started an investment club. There's a blog actually on the Sharesies site somewhere that I wrote about it right at the start of Sharesies journey, but that was one of the things that actually got Sonya and I even talking in the early days of Sharesies. So that we put $50 a week. There's a group of about 14 or 15 of us. And the reason I did that was because, property, everyone in New Zealand wants to invest in property. And there's no way I was going to be able to afford to buy a home anytime soon. Even this was 15 years ago, it felt that hard, so I completely understand the pressures now. And and I also err very much on the side of spender over saver. So this sort of pressure to put something in with a group of people was always very important. So check out the blog. Yeah, so that's the investing side. And as the job, I wanted to be a pilot. I had this dream, and an entrepreneur, I suppose, because I didn't just want to fly planes, I wanted to own the planes that I flew. So I was going to start Sunshine Air was the company I was thinking. It's a bit weird now because like I'm not scared of flying, but there's definitely something. Maybe it's since I've had kids or something. The idea of going in helicopters, all of a sudden, I have some sort of reaction to like you just struggle to get me into one. I think I don't know why, but anyway, it seems odd that that's where I thought I was going to head. Brooke.
Yeah, cool. I think to my school teacher's surprise, I did go to university, and I studied marketing and international business, and then picked up finance, and then kind of got addicted to both marketing and finance, and I ended up doing honours in marketing and masters in finance, and wanted to create a career where both of them came together, but I felt like I either had to choose finance or choose marketing, and it's fantastic that later on I found that you could combine them, which is really cool. My first investment, I remember at university hearing people who were using their student loan or something and investing it, and at that time, I was studying finance and learning about compounding returns, and was like, oh, I wish I could do that, but all my money went to paying for the hostels or paying for, I was working to make sure I could get through university, and then I ended up, I'd say my first investment was I ended up supporting my brothers and sisters quite a bit, and getting them through their high school years, and a lot of my money went to that, and I always saw that as an investment in each of them, and then I think about that. I was pretty early in my kind of early 20s at that time as like a key investment in them. And then later, it wasn't until Sharesies actually, aside from working at 02 where we got some great shares in the company, wasn't until Sharesies where I could actually make my first kind of investment, because I had a broker account, and it always sat at zero because I just couldn't justify the fees, or didn't really enjoy the user experience, and I just love seeing my portfolio grow on Sharesies now. And the job I wanted, that changed a lot. I definitely wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought I'd start my own fashion business or be in fashion business of some sort. But really, when I went to university and picked up finance and kind of got the love for how the whole economy works and how businesses thrive and what we could do to help make this world more accessible, it's been really awesome to be part of that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of these points probably flow in quite nicely into why we started Sharesies. I think, particularly some of the investment stuff and what we were thinking about. Two of us mentioned houses. One of us mentioned an account that was just a little bit too hard and a bit too expensive. So maybe Sonya, do you want to start off with how we got into Sharesies?
Yeah. So we started Sharesies a few years ago now, about 4.5 years ago, and it was really from this point of view that everyone deserves the opportunity to grow their wealth, and at the time that just wasn't the case. And I don't know if you can think back that far, but the media at the time was just filled with millennials not being able to buy houses because they spent all their money on smashed avocado on toast. But the reality was that any other type of investment was just too inaccessible. So kind of had this idea that it would be cool if we could invest small amounts of money online in a really fun way, and started talking about that with 6 amazing people who became the co-founding team of Sharesies, and we all decided that was something we wanted to put our time and energy into, and a change we wanted to see, which was to create the most financially empowered generation. And that's where we started, and that's still our mission today. And we've obviously all gotten to know each other a lot better over that time, the 6 of us. Yeah. Anything to add?
No, I can see that people want us to get into some more of the questions. So,
yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'll kick off. For people who may have been across the news, this has come through as a question really strong at the moment, as around the FMA notice that came out earlier this week. So, Leighton, did you just want to talk a bit about what that is, who the FMA is, what's happened, and a bit of what that is?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier on, the first thing I'd say is we did put a press release out about it with some comments on it. So I think basically anything we'll say here is that we put that out publicly already. So the FMA is one of our key regulators. We are a heavily regulated business. We have, we're very happy about that. It's very important that financial services is as regulated as is. So the FMA is one of them, and probably the key one for us, so the Financial Markets Authority. What happened is they did a routine review in sort of towards the end of February. We've had audits, external audits, but this was the first time that we'd actually had a review from them as the regulator, and they found a few things that they would like to see improvements on, basically. So we had made some decisions on different things that we thought were appropriate. We've since changed our mind based on new information, and the system's very flexible to do that. So we've been engaging regularly since we started with all of our regulators, and we're just working through, and we have done a lot of it already. So as soon as some of these things were highlighted, we started to make the improvements. Some of you may have noticed them at different points. They're also in the onboarding now. So the process for Sharesies is the same. We want to comply. We're working hard towards it. We regret that we were in this position, but accept it and move forward from there. And we've built the system in a way right from the start that should make it easy for us to make changes when we need to for these different, any changes to regulation if they do change, or in this case, new information that we get based on the existing one. So I think that's probably all there is to say at the moment. Like I say, if we did put our own press release out for if anyone hasn't read it to hear sort of straight from us our response to what was there.
Cool. And I see that there's quite a few questions too about features and kind of the future of Sharesies. I also just saw Herman ask, what's our combined funds under management now? So there's over $1.6 billion that people have invested through Sharesies at the moment, which is really cool to see that. And that's from over 420,000 investors too. So it shows how much that can add up over time. There's a lot of questions about what is our future strategy? What does Sharesies look like in a few years' time? And what's the most exciting part of that to us? I think, we see that there's so much opportunity to provide not just access to investing or other money opportunities, but also help people really build their confidence and motivation when it comes to building a portfolio. Investing it's not something that's like a quick win. It's your long-term, you're building wealth over time with amounts you can afford. And so really supporting people to really feel confident with their investment decisions and motivated to keep going and reach whatever their goals are over that time. So yeah, I'm quite keen to hear, Leighton, and Sonya, what are you most excited about in terms of our strategy?
Yeah, I think you covered a bunch of it, Brooke. I think our purpose, for those who haven't heard it, is to create the most financially empowered generation, and that can be quite a broad thing. So we're really excited about using the size of the business now, I think, and the platform we've got, and started to get better and better. And we've got a much larger team now. So we have about 150 people working at Sharesies, and that's growing, what seems to me, by the day, and I'm pretty sure that's actually true. And we're a lot of those people have just come on in the last year, so really starting to hit the ground running now. And we're seeing, I'm hoping that all the investors on listening in here have seen some of that stuff come out. So just really excited about what we're working towards on that, and not only making our existing experience better and even more empowering, but also seeing what else we can, where the other opportunities are, where we think there's to help people with their money.
Yeah, I think for me, it is around, like, when we first started, the biggest barrier was, but not even thinking that you could invest. So it was this idea of like making it really easy to get started. And I think now that I can see that already changed so much with more and more people thinking and knowing that they can be investors, that now the problem has kind of shifted to be, how do we become more confident in the investment decisions we're making? And I have heard from lots of people that sometimes they start and then they just get stalled because they don't know what to invest in. So there is a huge opportunity space for us, and a huge part of empowerment is around this confidence. And so our vision is that someone with $5 and someone with $5 million have the same money opportunities. And I think there's just so much to be brought to the investing space to make it just this fantastic experience for everyone. So that's what excites me the most. I think lots of people haven't cracked this space, and it really does feel like we're getting to really create this future and the change that we want to see. So that just keeps me going. We have had some specific comments come through around like more specific kind of feature requests. So I might just hit a few of those. One was around more stock exchanges, and we're always looking to add investments to Sharesies. So please do, if you have things that you want to see, we do listen to all customer feedback. Just email, I think it's help@sharesies.com, and we will make sure we take that feature request. Voting has also come through, and just want to say that we do offer voting on some material votes, and we're looking to improve that and then make that more automated, because it is a little bit manual at the moment. One was around access to more info, like company reports. That's also something that we're looking to improve. So if you do have specifics of types of information you want to see, do let us know. The app. So I am stoked to say, because this is probably one of our most requested things, that an app is underway. We have a team and are hiring a team to work on this. So really looking forward to launching that. Also saw some questions coming through for an API. This is also something we're working towards. And dividend reinvestment. Leighton, did you want to talk a bit about dividend reinvestment?
Yeah, that's something we definitely want to offer as well. It's a little bit like the voting one, actually, in that sometimes we're the ones having to solve these solutions to make them much easier. So the DRP model, people at the moment, I'm sure many will know, but they have to move them into a different CSN for it. So that is on our roadmap, and it's something we need to build. It's just we've got to really get our heads in the game and redo that technology, because it's not one that exists so that we can just buy in or something like there are for other types of things. So, yep, working on that one. Investing strategy. I think that's the large bit of the features. So maybe we'll get into investing strategies. So something that we get asked a lot is, how do you come up with a personal investing strategy, and how you get started investing, and what to do once you've started and you're looking to level up. So there's a few different points there, and I thought we could talk about it. Obviously, none of this will be personalized advice, but maybe we'll just start by a few questions. So Brooke, I'll start with you. Where to start? Where does someone start investing?
Sharesies now. So when you're starting to invest, it's thinking about, I think, on Sharesies, we've got a few options there where you can kind of do the set and forget with auto invest, where you can set up, hey, I want to be putting some of my payday away every payday into either a global fund, so investing in global businesses, or a sustainable fund, which has, portfolio, where it has more sustainable investment options available. And there's also, you can make your own one up from a bunch of the managed funds or exchange traded funds available on Sharesies. And also, if it's for kids, there's a kids auto invest too. And so that's one way where you can say, hey, please invest in these things however often with however much you choose, and you can set that up. And then you can also select individual companies and funds that you want to invest in, and you can have both of these strategies running at the same time, which is what I do. And in terms of how to pick the companies or funds you want to invest in, there's a bunch of ways to go about that, and it's really individual, really. For me, I like to look at businesses that I think are a force for good in the world, and have long-term value, in terms of that they're creating something that is going to have a real great impact on society, on our environment, on our customers, and the wider community. And so that's what I look for. And there's also some great managed funds or exchange traded funds too, where you don't have to look at the specific company. They've got that as a bit of a mandate. So we're only going to let companies into this fund that do that. And so that's what I look for. But really, it depends on what your values are, what your goal is too, in terms of how long you want to be investing, and your risk appetite too. So I'm sure somebody else might want to cover a bit about risk appetite when it comes to investing.
Sonya, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, what would I say? I'd say if you're getting started, congratulations, that's a huge step already. And just a reminder that you don't need to know it all on day one. So give yourself a break and, be gentle with yourself. You've already made like a really cool step. And I think, some of the things that people talk about, we talk about Sharesies not being a get-rich-quick scheme. So people, often picture investing as like the Wolf of Wall Street or needing to watch the markets all the time. And there's lots of different strategies that you can use that mean that you don't need to do that. And one of them is around, investing in funds where those are a group of investments as opposed to investing in one specific company. And why that's great is, or is a good way to start, is because that offers diversification. So that's one of the sweet, investing things you would have heard about. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's what funds really provide, is this ability to invest in things like, for example, some of the funds that exist are like New Zealand Top 50, which is the top 50 companies in New Zealand, Australia Top 20, which is the top 20 companies in Australia. Then there's more thematic ones. There's ones that are high in environmental, social, and governance scores, which is kind of what Brooke was alluding to before. Like, there really is like these ways of investing to have a portfolio that really speaks to you. I think, pick an amount you can afford. I'm a really big fan of a habit over, and that I will do something that is a habit, and I do that small amounts often, and that does build up over time. The other thing that, the risk appetite piece is, when are you wanting that money? And it comes back to that piece around how long your time frame is. And, I definitely think about it being a 10-year plus part of my plan, so I kind of take that lens to it.
Yeah, I always I concur with everything that's been said, and the definitely the get starting one, and also not underestimating what you know already. Like, the number of conversations I have, I mean, this classic example that you read somewhere, but it's like a conversation, I think it was to do with someone, I don't even know what company, but at least just pretend it was Tesla, and they were because I think it was topical around that time, and they're like, look, I'm going to invest in Tesla because it's because I really believe that electric's the way of the future, and because Elon Musk has all these things, and because I think it's so much smaller than the car companies right now, stepping back a few years, and because I want to be driving one myself because I think it's the most beautiful car, but I have no idea about investing. So, it's like, and it's always followed up with this, but I have no idea. But actually, you've just said all these great reasons of why that might be a good investment now. And I think, that I'm also a dollar cost averager. I said about that with the investment club. That's just $50 a week, and Sorted has a great tool where you can go in and you set whatever the age is that you want this money, and what your goal is for it, and it'll give you the amount based on a return. And I wouldn't, you don't stretch the return up too high, because that means you've got to start to look a bit crazy on the risk thing. I think, use a 5 or 6% type return on that, and then you get a really clear picture of what that could look like over time. And I think it's always surprising, particularly. So for me, when I was 17, that's what I did. It's like, I knew if I put $50 a week away, I'd never have to worry about money again. And then, and that was such a freeing sort of thing. And I'm so stick to that, through thick or thin. I've always done that and will continue to. And that was very hard at sometimes, particularly as a student with different priorities and that. And then when the kids were born, I worked out that $5, I think it was like $5 a week, basically, if they don't care for now, of course, but if they just do that forever, then even if superannuation is not a thing, then they don't have to worry about retirement. But yeah, we're talking about really long time horizons. And I think the time thing is just like the most important thing to be confident about money, is like time is the winner. And even if you don't intend to have that money in there for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, and you're choosing a company, you should choose a company that you think is going to be here in 10, 20 or 30 years. Like, I think that's a very important way of looking at it.
Leighton, you mentioned dollar cost averaging before. Do you just want to explain that?
Yeah. So dollar cost averaging is sort of what the auto invest is doing, and we know that lots of Sharesies users, a huge percentage of people use the auto invest function, and like Brooke said, a lot of people use that as like, well, one part of it, and then also do different choices and things on the side as well. But the auto invest offers dollar cost averaging, so you're just basically, you don't care what the price is doing, so you're never following this part of it. So and the great thing about it is, in times like March last year where markets dropped 40%, because you don't care about price or anything, you don't panic, you just keep going in. And then if it recovers fast, you do very well. And if not, and sometimes you're buying a bit higher, but in general, you're getting the average part of it. So, and the market has performed very well over time, and it's what the economy's geared towards doing. So we're expecting that to continue. So it's really just a way of stepping back a little bit, not actually having to be involved. And you can choose a manager. You can either go with on Sharesies, there's quite a few options to choose fund manager wise, or you can do it into a particular company you like. It's quite good strategy for all of those.
Leighton, I'm quite interested too in, and I know we've got a question on this, which is this lockdown at the moment in New Zealand, the August lockdown, and how it can affect the market in New Zealand. And I know we were talking about it earlier too, like there hasn't been much of a change, and most of the impact in the New Zealand market has been on the earnings season that's been happening at the moment, and where we've got A2 Milk and Air New Zealand's releases along with Comvita and a few more today too. So, and there was a really good discussion about this on our last Lunch Money, which was with Zoe, who is an economist, and so I really recommend checking that one out because it was a fantastic conversation about lockdowns, their impact, and also where our economy is at and where it's going. Should we get to the question?
There's just one thing I was going to add on the economy thing, but I might reiterate it later. And I think it's important because, a lot of these big companies are doing really well. If you've got access to capital or funding and stuff, or you've got a lot anyway, then, or you're purely online, which a lot of our businesses are now in New Zealand, they're doing really well. But there's also a bunch of people sitting at home saving a bit, and there's some of them are choosing to invest that money, and I think that's great. But I think it's also to remember the businesses that are not doing so well, because hospitality, tourism and stuff, and we all have friends, I think, that are working in these industries, and it's really hard time and really uncertain. And I just think to anyone who can afford it, sure, put a little bit more away and stuff, because that's a great thing to do for you. But if you can find the opportunity to help out one of those companies by, I don't know, buying a voucher or using their online service or the delivery one, I think that's really cool too. And it's a great opportunity to do that, because the reason the economy recovered so well lately, last time and so quickly, is because spending, and obviously the Reserve Bank, going back to the discussion with Zoe last week, they've kept interest rates low to encourage spending still, so that we can provide, really get the economy going again, and that's important for all of us. So that's just a quick note I wanted to add on that, is something that's nice to think about. I think just where's the opportunity? Some of that stuff's real nice as well, so it's always quite nice to get the delivery.
I reckon it's Q&A time later.
Q&A time, right. Sorry, I missed my thing there. I don't have my normal 2 screens, so to go back and forth. So we're going to get through into some Q&A that you've been asking today. So first one, I'll go you, Brooke. Any plans for Sharesies to become a public company? So maybe start by telling us what a public company is, and then any plans?
Yeah, so this question is asking, will Sharesies be listed on one of the exchanges? That's kind of like what we offer on our platform. And that means either through an initial public offering, an IPO, or there's also options to do direct listings too. So will Sharesies be a listed company? We've always really liked the idea of Sharesies being a listed company for a bunch of reasons, in terms of we feel like it really is our purpose coming to life, where anybody could get part of what we're creating here. But we've always got to make sure that we're lined up internally in order to do that, and that it's the best thing for Sharesies at that time. There's quite a lot of work that needs to go in behind the scenes, even from marketing and everything, in order to get a listing out, and need to have real viable business reasons to need to raise that capital too. So far we've funded Sharesies privately, but in our future we've always said, we'd be looking to be a listed company, but also explore opportunities as they come up to, and make sure we're making the best decisions that for Sharesies.
Great, thanks. Sonya, any plan to build an investment management division under Sharesies?
I think never say never. This is something, when we talk about this $5 and $5 million in money opportunities, really being able to really make sure we're offering solutions that meet the needs of our investors on that.
Cool. I'll take the next one. So I trade mainly on the US market and would like to be able to trade options and also trade in pre and post markets. Will Sharesies be offering these opportunities? So the pre and post markets is probably on the sooner part of the roadmap. The option one is not something we've really talked or investigated much yet. So for context here, pre and post market. So in the US, you still have trading once the market hours are closed, and they operate on separate markets. And that is something we're looking at. The options one is there's also a separate market, which is actually much larger than the stock exchange, which is a bit weird, and it's become very visible more recently with a few things you may have seen in the news around the GameStop trading and stuff, which was around some activity that was happening on these options markets. So at the moment, it's not something that that we're looking at, but for the right reason, if it was the right and we could get the right confidence behind it, then maybe something we did in the future. Brooke, will you be bringing in the option to have our shares registered with a share registry held under a CSN?
Oh, I know, Leighton, you'd love to answer that question, but essentially the investments are through a CSN and are through the Sharesies, and all sitting in Sharesies nominee. So all investments are held, that they are yours, all your money and the investments you have on the Sharesies platform are owned by you, but they're channeled through Sharesies nominee. And that's a way that we can make sure that we can move really efficiently in terms of getting your order to market and making sure that we can provide the service we have to date. So that's how we'll be continuing doing it. And people can transfer in from their CSN into Sharesies too. So you can have your portfolio in one place.
Yeah, they can do it on and off. Sorry, I'm just reading the next question. So, Sonya, how does Sharesies help out for the new investors as in the legal aspect of investing? Do we have more in-depth information on the platform about the US markets as well? I think the in-depth might be referring to market depth.
Yeah. I think definitely looking at how we can evolve the information about the other markets as well, knowing that that's really important for people to see that information. On the getting started stuff, we do provide, we've got a really thriving blog that we cover and have built up over time. Lots of great insights from what customers are asking in their getting started journey. We then kind of take that information and turn it into a blog that then helps others along that same journey, because a lot of the questions end up being the same. So I would say that our blog is a really great resource for how to get started. And as well, we do send emails with some helpful stuff. If you're stuck in a particular place, that might be the next best thing that you need to hear. So do keep an eye out on your emails for those as well.
Great, thanks, Sonya. Hi, how secure and safe is Sharesies accounts and portfolio? What is the type of assurance or guarantee from Sharesies on holding the account for a long-term investor? So we focus a huge amount on security. So one aspect, that's the digital side and the compliance side, and as Brooke was saying just before, you own the shares, we go. We're heavily regulated there. We have an audit available. KPMG is our auditor. We're just in the process of finishing up this year's one at the moment. But you'll be able to get last year's one, and it shows talks through many of the controls that we've got in place for that. Sharesies is a well-funded business. We have certain, we need a whole lot of money in the bank just to operate. That's part of how this licensed world works. So we have the intention to be here for the long term, that's for sure. And even in an absolute worst case scenario that we weren't, all your shares and your investments still would be. Brooke, any thoughts on Sharesies offering real-time share prices for a monthly fee maybe, or even a 10-minute delay?
Well, we do. So we've got, for the New Zealand Stock Exchange, we have a feature called Market Depth, and you can access that under settings, and that is $10 a month, the fee for that. In terms of the other exchanges, that's definitely a feature request that we're thinking about.
Cool, thank you, Sonya. Any plans for dark mode interface to assist us crazies that like to watch the US market in the early hours of the morning? From Duncan.
I love this question, Duncan. I don't know if this is on our radar, but thanks for sharing that you like to watch this, in the middle of the night, and that, love that as a feature request. So, definitely something we should consider.
Cool. These ones, hi folks, just wondering if Sharesies will offer stop sell feature to avoid losses. Thanks. So I think that's stop loss. We don't offer that at the moment. Once again, I understand it's on a product roadmap. So we've got, someone correct me, maybe 5 product teams now, do we? Nod, or is it more? 6? 5 or 6 product teams. So we are starting to get to the point where we can start to roll out more and more of these wanted features. So yeah, definitely something we want to offer. Brooke, I had requested this before, so I'd like to follow up. Can Sharesies design its own ETF or fund that can outperform the likes of smart shares with lower management fees?
So this goes back to what Sonya was saying before in terms of essentially, are we going to set up our own managed investment scheme? I think we've got Auto Invest, and that's completely separate, where we link in with current managed fund and exchange traded ETF, sorry. But in terms of will we create our own, we'll wait and see, but we do want to create the same money opportunities.
Great. Sonya, could you recommend 2 or 3 of your most reliable daily financial and market news YouTube channel stuff? Yeah, I'll leave that just there. Have you 2 or 3 of your most reliable daily news?
Cool. Well, funny you should ask that, because we have launched our own one called Recap, which is the top of my list favorite podcast around financial news. That's where we talk about the top 3 kind of news stories for the day, and that definitely keeps me finger on the pulse of what's going on. Other things I like, I have listened to the Motley Fool podcast, which gives like quite a they dig into some questions, and it's a bit more of a long form one. Those are the 2 that I kind of keep an eye on the most, actually.
Great. I'm just conscious of time, and it's nearly 1 o'clock, and I think lots of people have a 1 o'clock thing, so maybe we'll move on from Q&A. There's a lot more there, I think. Thanks everyone for the questions. We'll get through as many as we can, maybe at the start of next week's Lunch Money, and just churn through those, or in a follow-up blog or something like that. Lots of feature requests, and all I can say is we love feature requests. Keep them coming through. We've got teams loving to hear about your problems and trying to solve them for you. So really great. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Really great to have you here, and quite an epic turnout. I know it's probably because we're all can't go anywhere at the moment, but hope you're staying safe. And, I know we mentioned it as well, but do check out our financial news podcast, Recap. It is 10 minutes long and is posted at 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. It's a really great listen.
Cool. And next week on Lunch Money, we'll be joined by Ross Taylor, who's the CEO of Fletcher Building Limited. He'll be talking to us about the past year. It's been a bit of a roller coaster for the company. And of course, he'll be answering any questions that you might have. So do join in for that, and you can register through the link in the chat.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we'll see you back here Tuesday for another round of Lunch Money. Enjoy the rest of your week and stay safe. And thank you so much for joining us.
Ka kite anō.